Welcome back to Raimutin Community Wet Mill here in Timor-Leste. We're about 1,650 meters above sea level. There's a river over there, heaps of mist, the rainy season is just ending and everything looks like a construction site because it is one. So this is the place where we first started in 2018. I'm going to take you around and show you what we've been upgrading. We've got a whole lot of new technologies and concepts that we're trialing here. And because we've just finished the Kickstarter of 11 Million Trees Phase 2, this is where we will focus for the next few months. By the end of the year, we'll get into the planting of the trees. That is very weather dependent and season dependent. So until then, it's all about infrastructure. I don't know if you know this, but Colour of the Year 2021 never ceases to crack me up. Imagine if your job was marketing for a thermos and that was it. And you're like, what can I do? It already keeps things hot, it keeps things cold, the engineers solved that. Genuinely, I'm genuinely very happy with that. You are, Jeff, this for you. Oh, thank you. Well, I acknowledge that it is very messy. Do you want to have a look at the road? It's very misty at the moment, it looks awesome. So there's our entranceway. People come in here, you've got lights. We're building a new digital system so people can come in and using their phone number or QR code, their identification card. You drop off your cherries, they all get analyzed. So you go up in price per kilogram, the higher the quality, and then you pitch them into here. And we have 4 tanks. They can hold a lot of coffee. Okay, so these ones can carry 4 or 5 tons. We can fit, look, we expect 10 ton a night in the peak to start off with, but we've built it to handle up to 20 ton. So if you come and have a look in here, these are big tanks just to receive the cherries. And if it works out, you could do a fermentation in cherry up here. So to do that, we'd use the classic water pillow technique where you sit a plastic sheet over the top and you fill it up with water to create a heat sink. So as the cherries are starting to ferment, they'll normally heat up. We're high enough in the mountains at the moment that it's pretty chilly. We're not going to get a runaway fermentation at nighttime. But to help control it, we put this seal of water that's pushing down on a plastic sheet, and that will continue to drop and seal against the edge as the cherries degrade through the nighttime. And lixiviates can go out through the little doors down there. So that's an option. Or you may want to just straight on, as soon as they arrive, get into the next step. It all depends on the recipe and what works out for the best flavor, right? Okay, let's have a look. Maun. I'll just whip off my belt because I'm not going to do any more electrics. It's getting a bit dark. So, yeah, yeah, here we go. So here's a channel, and it's not for floating. So in the Colombian system at our Phoenix, we use the channel itself for separating the cherries into those that are less dense and denser than water. And then that's a pretty rough but simple way of separating by quality. So things that float is generally because they haven't developed quite right inside, or potentially they've got some broca damage, some coffee borer beetle inside, so they float along the top. This is a great way. It's just using water as a delineator. There's something less dense and here's something more dense than water. Here, instead of using the channel itself to separate, the channel is more for just getting all the cherries from each of these tanks into one place, and that place is over here. When they drop off the side, it's a deliberate little drop to agitate them, followed by some stone traps. These stone traps may or may not stop all the stones. We may need more, we may need fewer, we may need this to be higher or further out, but because the floor is sending everything what's that? West and south, it means that the water's going to pass over here full of cherries, turn the corner, and the sinkers, the good ones, will go down there to that bottom edge. Meanwhile, the floaters will be agitated enough that they would have come out from underneath and be floating along the top, heading that way. When they get out here, we have this little trapdoor. It's got a screw here holding it for now, but you can see, or maybe you can see, there's a little door here. So this is the lowest point in the tank, where you can just drop the door down and adjust until just the right flow of floaters are going over the top there. It's kind of similar to the Colombian system. In Colombia, we have a channel where the water passes underneath, and we just put a little half gate that knocks the floaters off the side. This time we are trying to save materials by just using common plumbing fixtures to come out and up, and as long as we come up higher than the water level in this whole tank, nothing will flow until we drop it down. Just like how, have you ever wondered how there's always water in the bottom of your toilet? You've ever wondered that? Well, there's an S-bend you might see at the back of the toilet that just keeps water in there like a seal, like a plug, until more water goes here to push over the next curve. We're using that same bit of physics by coming up and then back down, so the water will fill up into the system. The cherries will start moving through, but they won't rush on until it gets to the point where it can fall over the top edge. So then it's about adjusting it down, adjusting the door down, and adjusting the recirculation speed of the water in the system. It's all one body of water with nothing much being added or taken away. Once you get those three things aligned, the cherries should flow at the optimum speed to select the sinkers from floaters. Yeah, so it's all adjustable. The idea is to here have everything in pieces, little adjustable components. Everything's adjustable. This is adjustable, the angle here, the speed of the water, the height of the gates that let the cherries out, and it continues on here with this plinth. This spins, and the angle of the size separator is adjustable by adjusting the plinth at the other end. And when you do that, the way the bearing sits in this housing, it can rotate as well. So you can adjust the speed, therefore, not only of the cylinder that separates by size, but also the angle of the cylinder. I think ideally that should be made out of stainless steel with slots. So we have some coming in on a ship soon. Then it'll be time to adjust the angle, the speed, the flow, until we hit this equilibrium where coffee can come through at a continuous pace that works.
Hey everyone, thank you very much. Already a couple months have passed by, so now we are in the coffee farm right here in Atsabe. As you can look at around, we have like some old trees and then also some new baby trees that are growing up. At the back of us, we have the bamboo that normally we use to cut up and build the house, and also like building our drying bed. But yeah, now my brother Matt is here, so I think he'll bring some idea about how can we treat the bamboo to become like a steel.
That's right, yeah, because in Colombia and Rwanda and many other places, we can use bamboo in place of steel, which means not importing a lot of steel from other countries, which ultimately will rust here. And that will be after forcing so much new activity of mining and smelting, all this heavy industrial movement. When bamboo was always available, it just needs a little treatment so that it's not currently treated as a temporary measure. How many years would you give
I think it's only 1 year. If a little bit longer than just 1.5 year, 2 years, then we need to throw it away and get the new bamboo.
Yeah, because we've been doing this here for eight
to 9
years.
years now.
Yeah, and we'll show you soon all the bamboo stacked up from last year. We brought it in after last year's season, so it didn't get just rained on all season.
Yeah.
And we'll use some of it to rebuild the drying beds for this season, which is very labor intensive, and also most of it will need to be replaced anyway.
Yeah.
However, with some treatment, just like the mill over in Colombia, the experimental farm, our Phoenix, that's all bamboo, you know? All the roof structure is bamboo and will last about as long as our bodies. So it could definitely be used in place of steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be really amazing.
Should we go have a look at the bamboo?
Yeah.
Just close up?
Yeah, we'll hope to bamboozle you with some.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of cool technique for using bamboo, like very specific cuts and joints that we'll need to learn and bring here. We could replace the entire structure that is steel but so rusty from 2018
Yeah.
with our new treated bamboo. Not just for the poles, not just for the posts and the battens, but also, what do you call the tiles? The tiles for roofs, you know, where you put two like this and then one over the top?
Yeah, we call it like moko.
Moko.
Yeah, moko.
Moko.
So yeah, before, like, people don't have enough money. I think I remember like last 20 years that I grew up, like we also have like a bamboo house, like a small one, that my grandparents just used to cut the bamboo and break it for two and then just connect it like this.
Which works really well because you're making channels and then you're covering like a cap.
One and yeah.
It's
like
fantastic, except
it's rotten.
after just
Every
1
year.
or 2 years, yeah. And how much does it cost for one pole like this?
The small one is like $2, $2.50, but
Consider this small?
yeah, this is a bit small.
Two.
If like the big one is like $4, yeah,
Huh?
$4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$4? Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you were using this for your moko, and
Mm.
Miguel is going to laugh every time you say it. Because in Spanish, of course, it means snot. So we're like, oh, back home we use moko for the roof. What? How many people do you have to sneeze to get a roof worth of moko? But
How do you use that? Is that glue?
yeah, we use moko and then we build a moko.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a glue. That is something to consider. How do you put them all together without putting a hole so that the rain doesn't get through? Can you remember from your grandparents' house?
No, back there they don't have a nail, or they don't have like a screw. They only like cut this one up, and then the young one they take it out the skin to use it as a tie.
And then they put a rope over
They
the whole thing.
no, they take one pieces to put it all the cross of other side. This is the moko.
Yep.
And then they put one thing like this
So
to tie it on the side of this.
I see. So here's the moko going up, here's
And
the
the-
moko going down,
Yeah,
and then
they
they go
have
this way.
yeah. They tie it in the other side of
Got it. The thin ones, the really young ones.
the really one. Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
And you'd have to do it every piece because the wind is crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I remember when they built that, they don't use any nails or a screw. They only use like bamboo, everything. Yeah, like the wall, they make it. We call it hadak.
Hadak is when you
Yeah.
trim it like this.
Trim it like this and then open up like.
Yeah. We see heaps over here.
So as you can see, this is all coffee trees. It's really high, and also right now it's not really giving much fruit because the tree is really tall and high. And then also you can see the coffee tree under the bamboo here, like a shade tree for this coffee tree. And this bamboo will use, normally here we use it for making like our drying bed for drying coffee and also building the house and things like that. But not treatment, not really good treatment, so it's get rotten for like 1 year. Right now we are planning to do the treatment and then can use it also for 11 million trees program. So yeah, if you can see, this is a really, I think this is really good and really solid. So yeah, right there at the coffee farm. This is a taro, just under the shade tree, under the coffee. So this thing is really good. If you can look at this side, this thing is really good because normally here people come to the farm only like two or three times a year. But if they have something like this, they always come to the farm every week, because these things they will get it to feed the pig, or they can get it to eat or sell.
So the 11 Million Trees program has replanting the trees that are already here. So that means new baby trees, because these trees are very old, susceptible to diseases and leaf rust, and also don't produce much coffee. That's large reforestation program. In fact, that's where the name comes from. 11 million trees stands for 10 million trees that are coffee, 1 million trees that are shade trees, nitrogen fixing shade trees. And that name is chosen because if you were to plant about 11 million trees, you should at least double the production of Timor-Leste, even if you did nothing else. If you didn't look into the soil, you didn't choose new varieties, just younger stock would double production. We chose that number. It's relatively arbitrary, but it's connected to some studies that Monash University did that found if the value of coffee out of Timor-Leste could double, then the poverty rate among coffee farmers would halve. You could do that by doubling the price of coffee, but that's pretty hard to achieve. Considering the low-hanging fruit, pun intended, of just increasing productivity from the 20% of global average to, well, even if you were just at 40% the global average, that seems doable and probably the lowest cost, most straightforward way of achieving it. So that's where 11 million trees comes from. It's a proxy. So we won't be planting the trees out now because physics won't allow it. It's a really, really intense rainy season here and then dry season. And we're just coming to the end of the rainy season now. We can show you some footage from the last couple of weeks. To drive that point home, the roads are gone and so on. Soon it will be the dry season, and unless we wait to the perfect moment near the end of the year before the next rainy season, the young seedlings don't stand a chance. So we need to time the propagation just very, very well and look after them till they get to the right size. More important than them landing at the right size before planting is the planting timing in a situation like this.
Yeah, this is the road that came from the main road all the way up, and then come from the side to access to our wet mill. Then normally the coffee that from different regions, like other village that don't have wet mill, so people take the coffee with the truck to go to the wet mill to process it there. Yeah, so I think the unique things in Atsabe, especially I think it's right here, is if you can look at, you can see, yeah, there's a view, really nice.
So beautiful.
Yeah, if we have done our things here, and then maybe in the future you can come and experience the coffee here, the culture, and help us to pick a coffee and doing processing, and then enjoy coffee right here and look at the view there.